Shri Guru. So, I'm going to be talking a little bit today about Vedic principles of leadership. Let me ask and be honest, who here has seen this last video that we put out, The Coming Golden Age? Okay, quite a few people. For those who haven't, please take a look at it when you have a chance. You can go either to Dharma Central or to our YouTube site, which is called Dharma Nation. Just punch in Dharma Nation, you'll find it. Reason why I bring this up is because in the video itself I talk about this a little bit. But truthfully, for people who have known me for some time, you know that this is something that I talk about quite often. How when we look at the world around us today, what do we see? Bluntly, honestly, we see a world in crisis. You know, tremendous crisis, political crisis, economic crisis, social crisis, spiritual degeneration, just in every way imaginable. We see a world that's in crisis. And of course, recognizing this, people will ask the natural question, why is this the case? Why are we in crisis? Is it something that is due to the collective consciousness? Is it because, well, we just haven't made the right economic adjustment, and once we make the right economic adjustment, then all crises will end? Is it simply because, well, we haven't made the right political adjustment, we haven't elected the right political party, the right person, etc., etc.? Of course, we know the answer is no. How do we know this? Because people have been trying this longer than anyone in this room has been alive. People have been trying adjustments, economic adjustments, everything from socialism to radical laissez-faire capitalism. We know that people have tried every political adjustment humanly conceivable, from Marxism-Leninism to National Socialism and Nazism, and everything in between. We know people have tried everything, and yet we are in crisis. Why are we in crisis? Many reasons, really, but the chief reason is this: we are lacking leaders. We are lacking leaders. The truth of the matter is, even though we in the 21st century, having been infected by many false ideas of the 20th century, we believe that the way that society is changed is from the ground up. In actuality, the way that society is changed is from the top down. When we have individuals who are true leaders, and we'll talk about what is meant by a true leader, when we have individuals who can serve as an example, as a model for the rest of humanity, for how it is that we as human beings are meant to live, then having that model, the people follow. The people, and that's a wonderful word, like many of these meaningless words, like love, like spirituality, that people love to throw around. You know, especially again in the 20th century, the century of ideology, the people. There's no such thing, of course, as the people. You know, the people is a grouping of individuals. But when this grouping of individuals known as the people find something that is good, they will necessarily and naturally gravitate toward that. That's simply the way the people operate. This being the case, without a leader as an example, the people have nowhere to go. The people do not know which direction they should traverse in. So what we are experiencing today is a lack of leadership. Let me go a little bit deeper into this and be, again, very blunt and honest about this. We don't have political leaders today. We have corrupt individuals who care for themselves, who gain power by any means necessary and use that power to enrich themselves and their friends. We don't have politicians. We don't have religious leaders, and I'm a religious leader. We are lacking religious leaders. What do we have? Pretty much the same thing as I just described about political leaders, but more in the name of God. We have individuals who abuse others, who make a lot of money. We have individuals who claim that they are something that they are not. They claim that they had a revelation from Jesus. They claim that they are an enlightened being. They claim that they know Brahman, when in actuality they don't even know themselves. So we are lacking religious leaders. We are lacking cultural leaders. At one time we had cultural leaders. We had individuals who lived and died for their art. We had a Van Gogh. You know, we had individuals who lived and died for their art. What do we have today? Lady Gaga. Individuals who make millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars without talent. and without understanding what is the nature of art, what is the nature of beauty, what is the nature of the aesthetic, and more, whose attempt at entertaining others, and that's all that it is entertainment, is empty and devoid of meaning. So, we are lacking leadership in every way. Also in the video, you'll recall that I said that our crisis will indeed end when, in fact, we have self-illumined leaders arise to, again, lead the people toward sanity, to lead the people toward reality. These can only be spiritual leaders, first and foremost. Political leaders, cultural leaders, economic leaders, every other leader in every other field will follow. But primarily what we're missing is spiritual leadership, because spirituality is the foundation of reality. It is the hidden transcendent foundation of all that is empirical, of all that we see around us that we mistake for being real, but in actuality which is itself dependent upon a higher reality, and that is consciousness. When we have leaders who themselves are in full grasp of who they are, have full realization of what their position is in the world, and who more act in the world in such a way that they're acting not merely out of ego, thinking that there's something greater than they are, but acting out of love, acting out of compassion, acting out of a desire to, at any cost to themselves, save the world. When we have such individuals arise, oh, then the crisis will be over. This is the question. Having said that, from whence do such leaders derive? In other words, that's very nice. Where are those leaders? Look in the mirror. Potentially, look in the mirror. The truth is that leadership is not going to arise as a result of a Messiah coming down from the clouds. I can guarantee you there is not going to be an avatar. At least not in the immediate future. Not in our generation. At least not a Purna avatar, not a full incarnation of the divine. Why? Because the scriptures tell us that the next avatar is Kalki, and he's not coming for over 400,000 years. So, who are these leaders? They are sincere, humble individuals who have opened themselves to the grace of God in such a manner that they become personally empowered by the divine, and to do something historically that is very special, and that is save the world. You've heard me repeat this many times, and I like repeating it because it's a very bold statement. For an individual who is a true spiritual leader, they have one goal: to save the entire earth. Every blade of grass. What to speak of every human being. Their goal is to save the earth. Is that a bold statement? No. All you need to do is look at the true spiritual leaders of the past and look at the attitude that they had. Look at a Jesus. Would you not say, if you know anything about Jesus, if you've actually read the Gospels, would you not say that he was an individual such that his attitude was that he wished to save the entire earth? Not just Jews, not just this people, not just that people, not just quote-unquote Christians. Jesus was not a Christian. That term came about many years after he left. His goal was to save the earth and every living being on it. You look at the Buddha. Same thing. The Buddha, Gautama Siddhartha, came from the Shakya clan in North India. Was his goal merely to save the Shakya clan? No, if that was his goal, he would have stayed with the Shakya clan. Instead, he left them, he abandoned them to save the earth, to save the entire world. Same thing with Ramanuja, my Parama Guru. Ramanuja traversed the length and breadth of South Asia, what is called Bharat, what we in modern times call India. He traversed the entire length and breadth on foot to save the earth, to teach the truth, Same thing with my god uncle, Prabhupada, who at the age of 69, when other people were already deeply into retirement, he decided to leave Vrindavana, sacred place, and to leave the life that he had, a life of stillness, a life of calm, a life of peace, a life of spiritual contentment. And in 1965, come to the savage West, where no one understood even cleanliness. No one even understood they should take a shower each day. Why? To save the earth. To save the earth, to save the earth. This is what we're missing today. When we have not just one, but many Jesuses, Buddhas, Prabhupads, Ramanujas, when we have many sages and saints and true leaders arise in this world who have this fire, this passion, that, you know what, my goal is not to appear on Oprah Winfrey to sell my latest book. My goal is to save the earth and die trying if I need to. When we have such individuals who are that selfless, then we will have leaders, then the earth will change. It's a tall order, no? Am I scaring people? I don't want to scare people. Because the truth of the matter is, am I saying that every single person here, you are a failure in this lifetime unless you are a Jesus? No. No. That's the goal, you see. The goal is to become an enlightened sage. The goal is to become someone who, indeed, has this impetus to save the world. But wherever we find ourselves, we already are a leader, even if it's with a small group of people. Wherever we find ourselves, our goal should be indeed to lead people in such a way that they go from a worse situation to, at the very least, a better situation. You know? For some of us, yes, we'll have this grand, expansive goal to be like a Jesus. But again, that's not the role for every one of us, but we can still be a leader. Before I go deeper into what it means to be a leader, first I just want to talk about a few, let's say, caricature stereotypes that people have about leadership and what it means to be a leader, that I just want to kind of get out of the way to begin with. First of all, if a person has a lot of charisma, is that enough to make them a leader? What would you think? No. No. Anyone can have charisma, good or bad. You know, when you watch films, you know, often the most charismatic people are the villains. They're the ones who want to kill people, murder people. But they have a lot of charisma. They have a lot of, energy to them. So having charisma, having energy is not enough. More. Is a true leader, again, in the positive sense, in the spiritual sense, merely the person in the room who's talking the most? No. No. We've all met people who love to talk and who have nothing to say. No, it's not enough merely to want to talk. Is it someone who merely has a lot of knowledge? No, knowledge is helpful. The more knowledge you have, certainly the better. Knowledge is a very good tool. But most professors could not lead anyone. It's not enough merely to have quantity of knowledge. Now, and I could go on, I think we're getting the picture. Merely having one little element of success in and of itself is not enough. But actually, you know what, let me go on. If a person had all of these elements of leadership, would that be enough to make that individual the sort of leader we're talking about? Let's say they were charismatic, they had knowledge, they had great communication skills, and on and on and on. Would that be enough? No. Because again, they can use all these things for evil as well. Thus, what is really the primary element that an individual needs to be a leader, again, in this positive spiritual sense? What is the most important thing? They need direct empowerment from the divine. This is the most important thing that they need. They need to have a spiritual foundation to everything that they're doing, to everything that they say, to everything that they think. Spiritual foundation, without which they can lead, but they'll be leading people off a cliff rather than to the stars. Thus, having a spiritual foundation, having this very important empowerment directly from the divine is the most important thing that a true leader needs to have. A leader, a true leader, a spiritual leader, sees themselves not as the master of the individuals who they are leading, but as the servant of those people. And again, you'll see with individuals who were tremendous leaders in the past, and again, especially in the spiritual context, they did not see themselves as masters, they saw themselves as servants. They were there to help their people. Now, this begs the question. What does this mean as far as the personal quality of the leader, him or herself? They have to have humility. They have to have humility. When an individual attempts to become a leader, in actuality they're playing with fire, which is why most individuals who claim to be leaders are not. Which is why most individuals who want to lead really should just shut up and follow. When we play with leadership in any context, but especially in a spiritual context, we are playing with fire. Why? Because being in that position in and of itself has the ability to build ego. See, what does it mean to be a leader in the external sense? As we are watching a leader, what do we see? Oh, we see an individual who, when that person speaks, everyone listens. We see someone who seems to be the center of everything, you know? That's attractive to our ego. When we see that, rather than understanding the truth, which is this, that person is very fortunate to be surrounded by tools with which they can do good. Rather than seeing that, what do we see? Oh, hey, that person has something I want. That person has a following. That's ego. Now, when we put ourselves in that position, where now, oh, we have a few people who are following us, of course, again, we are playing with fire. Because we have the ability to use that quote-unquote power in order to help others, or again, we have the ability to use that power to just build and build and build this false image of ourselves, and to exist in a consciousness of exploitation rather than dedication to the truth. So this is why it's very dangerous to put yourself in a leadership position before you're ready. So most people are not ready, and that's just the way it is. Leadership is not egalitarian. Leadership is not for everyone. Leadership is for those individuals who have the ability to become leaders because they have the ability to empty themselves of ego and to focus on the vision like a laser beam, to focus on the goal like a laser beam, and not all the little peripheral niceties of, oh, well, this is great, I'm President of the United States. That means, hey, I get a great car. That means I get my own jumbo jet. That means I get this, I get that. Those are merely the accoutrements by which you're meant to serve the people. Those are just the sidelines. Those are not of importance. The importance is the goal. That is to be the best leader that you can. So first, there is, as I was just saying, vision. A leader has vision. This is by definition what it means to be a leader. And let me just talk about that for a second. Go a little bit deeper. There are two ways in which an individual can lead the people. There is being a manager, and then there is being a leader. And there is a very important distinction between the two, and unfortunately people often get the two confused. You can go to Starbucks, you can go to McDonald's, you can go to any place, any organization, any corporate culture, and you will find managers. You will find individuals whose job it is to manage a group of people and to make sure things get done. Is that the sort of leader we're talking about? No. 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 That's important, but that's being a manager. A manager looks at the today and gets what needs to be done today done. That's a manager. Now we're talking about a leader. A leader is an individual, on the other hand, who has vision. In other words, who has the ability to see 15 generations from now, to understand the long-term goal, to have quite literally a vision of how the entire world should be, and has the ability to communicate that vision. There have been tremendous leaders who have been terrible managers. There have been people of vision who have had to who have had to have other people help them with actual management, with actual administration. But the important thing is they have the vision, without which everything is meaningless. The vision is everything. Once in a blue moon, you have someone who actually has both abilities, who was a good manager and a good visionary, but that's rare. Prabhupada was such a person, actually. Prabhupada had vision to the point where he inspired millions. But on the other hand, he was a good manager. He could take care of the smallest minutia of every single detail and make sure everything was being done correctly and perfectly. But that's rare. Most people either are a visionary or a manager. Okay? We have plenty of managers. We need visionaries. A true leader has focus. Focus is everything. As far as internal tools that a leader can have, focus is one of the most important tool that a person can have. If you don't have focus, and I mean focus literally like a laser beam, you can't accomplish anything. You can't accomplish anything. If you're the sort of person whose mind is scattered, who you understand, oh, okay, I've got a goal, but hey, you know, this is interesting too, and this is interesting too, and you just kind of get sidelined all the time, just get attracted by all sorts of peripheral issues and not be focused directly on that goal, then you're not a leader. You will not have success. This is a story that I'm sure a lot of people here know. So, for those who know this story, please forgive me for repeating it. But at the same time, even you need to hear this, because important stories like this need to be heard again and again and again. For those who don't know the story, hopefully it will be instructive. True story. There was once a warrior named Arjuna. That's his name for people who don't know. But we're not talking about this Arjuna. We're talking about an Arjuna who lived 5,200 years ago, approximately, about 5,100 years ago. Well, this person went on to become the greatest warrior in history. But before he was the greatest warrior in history, he was a kid, like everyone else. He was a prince. Well, to make a long story short, when Arjuna was very young, he was being trained by his guru, his martial arts guru, his guru who was there to teach him archery. But it wasn't just him, it was him along with his 4 other brothers and along with many, many cousins. So one day, this guru, whose name was Drona Acharya, decided to set up a test for all of these cousins, all of these princes. And this is what he did. He took a clay pigeon and he put it up on a tree. And he said, all right, this is the goal. I want someone here to take their bow and arrow and to hit that clay pigeon in the tree. So he called one of the people. Yudhishthira, okay, you come first. Get prepared and shoot. So Yudhishthira comes, he gets down on one knee, he's very solemn, he takes his bow, he takes an arrow, and he's prepared to shoot, and then Drona says, stop. And Yudhishthira is very confused. Oh, stop? Well, what's wrong? And Drona asks him, Yudhishthira, answer me a question. What do you see? What do I see? Well, I see the pigeon that I'm about to shoot. Oh, that's good. What else do you see? Well, I see the tree. What else do you see? Well, I see the leaves on the tree, and I see, stop, go away. And Yudhishthira, of course, is very confused, but this is his guru. So he gets up and silently he goes back and sits down. So Drona calls another of the princes to come. And he says the same thing. Get prepared to shoot. He gets his arrow, he's about to shoot, and again, stop. What do you see? He says, well, I see the pigeon. Good, what else? Well, I see the clouds behind the pigeon. I see you in the corner of my eye. I see, stop, go back. At this point, everyone's confused. What's wrong? What are they doing wrong? Well, finally, he calls Arjuna. And Arjuna comes, he gets positioned, and he's about to shoot. And again, Drona says, stop. Arjuna, tell me, what do you see? And Arjuna says, I see the pigeon. What else do you see? Nothing. Only the pigeon. And Drona asks him, do you see the whole pigeon? No. I don't see the whole pigeon. I see only an eye. Shoot! And he shoots. And it goes through the eye of the pigeon. That's focus. When you can focus like this, you can be a leader. Because you can accomplish anything. Interestingly, a true leader must know how to be silent. That may come as a surprise to people. Because again, when we see people who we think are leaders, what do we see? People who are constantly talking. In actuality, a true leader knows when to talk and when to be quiet. A true student knows when to talk and when to be quiet. A true master knows when to talk and when to be silent. A true leader doesn't live merely externally, constantly trying to influence others, but a true leader lives primarily internally. They are in full possession of who and what they are, and their world exists in here first. And taking what is in there, they affect the world around them. See, this is why the Buddha first went deeply into meditation and achieved nirvana in silence, and then affected the entire earth. So silence. Another similar trait that's very important is what in Sanskrit is called dhira, or gravitas in Latin. You know, in other words, a true leader is not constantly joking around. A true leader is serious. A true leader has self-possession. A true leader is grave. A true leader has the ability to be a mountain. Why do we respect mountains? Why are we attracted to mountains? Why do people want to climb mountains, live near mountains, live in mountains? Why do we use mountains in so many metaphors? Because a mountain has gravitas. We know it cannot be moved. Humans can be moved. Trees can be moved. So many things can be moved, but try to move a mountain. You know you can't, as hard as you'll try. Well, in the same way, when we encounter a true leader, we encounter someone who has such heaviness. It's interesting. The word guru, who knows? Who here knows? What does the word guru mean? Yeah, what's the literal meaning, however?
Heavy.
Who said that? Very good. Heavy. The literal meaning is heavy, interestingly. The word guru means heavy. What is meant by heaviness? Heavy with knowledge, heavy with truth, but more heavy because it is an individual who you know is solid. It's an individual who you know you can trust them. You know, a leader is someone who you know that when trouble arises and everyone else is running away, if you're intelligent, run toward that person, because that person will not be moved, because that person will not be affected. This leads to another very important quality that a leader has: detachment. Detachment. When an individual is too attached to either their goal, to their position, to the happy, pleasant feelings that they're getting being a leader, then at that point they're no longer a leader. At that point they're being affected by ego. Now this leads to an interesting question, because remember I was saying how the leader needs to have vision, the leader needs to have focus upon the goal. Well, how can you have that if you're detached? See, it's interesting. Very often people confuse this idea of detachment with not caring. That's not what detachment is. The leader cares. The leader cares for their people. The leader cares for the good, positive goal that they're trying to achieve. They certainly care. But personally, they're detached. In other words, who they are, their sense of identity, their sense of self-worth is not attached to that goal. This is the attitude of the leader. My goal is to do this tremendous thing to save the world. I will give every fiber of my being to achieving that goal, but not for me. That's the detachment. Not for me. And whether I achieve that goal or not, as far as myself, I'm still me. I will die trying to achieve that goal. I may achieve the goal or I may fail. Either way, I'm fine. I'm simply doing my duty. I'm doing what is my nature, and that is to help the world. So they're not doing it for themselves alone. They're not doing it simply for self-aggrandizement, but they're doing it for the purest of reasons, for others. Just a few more qualities. A leader leads by example. And this is very, very important. This is one of the most important things. There is no such thing as an individual who wishes to be a leader, wishes to lead people in a certain direction, to do certain things that they themselves don't do. You know, if a leader expects everyone to die for a cause, but they won't die for that cause, they're not a leader. If a leader tells people, you must do such and such, but they themselves have never done it, that person is not a leader. They must lead by example. Another very short story, shorter than the last one. Again, true story, a little bit more recent. Gandhi, Mohandas Gandhi. We all know who Gandhi is. He was one of the people who led Bharat, India, to independence. And he was a tremendous leader. But this is a true story about him. At one point, when at this point he was very, very famous all throughout the length and breadth of India, there was a woman who approached him for darshan. You know, she wanted to have his audience and speak with him. And she explained her situation to Gandhi. And she said, Gandhiji, I have a problem that I'm hoping you can help me with. And it's this. I have a son, and he's been having a lot of health problems, and we visited the doctor, and we discovered that he's lactose intolerant. He shouldn't be drinking milk, and it's the milk that's actually making him ill. But no matter what I do, I cannot get him to stop drinking milk. It doesn't matter how much I explain it to him. I've had the doctor explain it to him, but he just won't stop. Well, of everyone on this earth, he respects you more than anyone. If you'll speak to my son, if you'll kindly speak to him, I know he'll stop drinking milk and then he'll be healthy again. Could you do this? He's right outside, and I can just bring him in. It'll just take a minute. And Gandhi was silent. And he finally said to her, yes, I'll do it, but not today. I'll do it tomorrow. Can you bring him back tomorrow? And of course the mother was confused, and she said, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were busy. Are you busy right now? And I said, no, I have time. I'm not busy, but bring him tomorrow. Oh, okay. So she left confused, but she came back the next day. And she brought her son to see Gandhi. And the son was just elated, to see his hero, this person who was leading India to independence. And Gandhi, of course, very nicely said to him, your mother's very concerned, and she's spoken to me about this, and the doctors have said that you need to stop drinking milk because it's not good for you. Can you do me a favor and stop drinking milk? And the little boy immediately said, oh, yes, Gandhiji, yes, for you, yes, I'll stop drinking milk right now. And of course the mother was very happy. And she thanked Gandhi, and she was about to leave. But then she was very curious about this. And she went to Gandhi and she leaned into him and she whispered and she said, can you just tell me one thing? This just took a minute. I mean, I'm very appreciative, but I'm just curious. Why couldn't you do this yesterday? Why did you have to do it today? And Gandhi said to her, because yesterday I was drinking milk. Because yesterday I was drinking milk. In other words, how could he tell someone to stop doing something that he was doing? We lead by example. If you're going to tell someone, you do this, but you yourself are not doing it, or vice versa, you tell someone, do not do this, but you're doing it, you're not a leader. You're not a leader. Abhaya, fearlessness. Fearlessness. A leader does not know fear. Quite literally. Quite literally. A leader does not know fear. And this is not due to arrogance, it's due to an absolute reliance upon the divine. The leader understands that there is nothing to fear. See, it's not just the courage of, let's say, a soldier. Oh, I'm so strong. No. It's not an arrogance. It's not just an empty pride that the leader has. It is a fearlessness that is there due to the fact that the leader understands that ultimately there is nothing to fear. What is the cause of fear? It's our own illusion, thinking that we have something to lose. Why do we fear? We think we have something to lose. I'll lose my body, I'll lose my fame, I'll lose my reputation. People think something of me. I don't want to lose that. I think something of myself. I don't want to lose that. That's what causes fear. Fear of loss. But when we understand that spiritually speaking, there's nothing to lose. Why? Materially speaking, everything that we have, everything that we think we are is temporary anyway. Who am I? Who am I? I have a certain name, I have a certain age, I have a certain history, I have a certain identity, and it's all ultimately meaningless because it dies when this body dies. Oh, but I'm identifying with it now so much. And that's why we fear. Because we fear the loss of something that truly we don't really have a grasp on anyway. We fear what? Losing our wealth? We're going to lose it. At one point we didn't have it. We're going to lose what? Our possessions, our home, our car. What year car do you have? Do you have a 1929 Ford? Probably not. Why? For the most part, they don't exist anymore. Cars disintegrate. What do you have? A 2012 Lexus? Hey, you got one before they even hit the market? Someday it's going to be 3012, 4012. That car won't exist. What do you think you have to lose? The only thing that we truly have is that which cannot be lost, that which is eternal. Well, what do we truly have? Ourself, the true self, the soul, Atman, what in Sanskrit is called Atman, that which can never be lost because it is us. Even in the West, we have the stupid idea we can lose the soul. You can lose your soul, you can sell your soul, sell your soul to the devil. You know, I always love giving this example of The Simpsons, where there was this episode where Bart Simpson sold his soul to his best friend. He wrote down a piece of paper, Bart's soul, and he sold his soul for $1. You don't lose your soul. You don't sell your soul. You are the soul. We do not have a soul. We are the soul. We are this consciousness. We are this drashtra, this experiencer, experiencing everything that is happening on the peripheries of our inner reality. That you don't lose. When we truly understand this, not just here, not just intellectually, not just as a nice little solution to a philosophical conundrum, but when we know it and we live it, we live in such a way that, yes, I am this eternal consciousness. Fear ceases to exist. This is why. And those who are in the Sanskrit class, you should know this now. What does Krishna say? Ma shuchaha. Very good. Do not fear. Do not fear, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 66. God is telling us, isn't it so fascinating? This is just as an aside, how in the Abrahamic religions we're meant to fear God. Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom, it says in the Old Testament. Yet in the Bhagavad Gita it says the opposite. God himself is telling us No, not some nice guy, not some even great leader. God himself is telling us, no, actually do not fear. There's nothing to fear. It's actually the opposite. When we know God, fear ceases. We don't even fear God. Fear ceases itself. How do you fear your best friend? You don't. So a true leader does not demand the allegiance of people, but rather commands it. A true leader is not someone who goes on and on and on and on about how I am the true leader, I am the real leader, I am the only leader, I am here to lead you out of darkness and into the light. They just lead. They just lead. Without going on and on and on about it. They just lead. And within there is a stirring such that you know, I'm always following someone, right? We are always following someone. We're following the latest star, the latest movie star, the latest recording star. We're always following what the news says. We're always following what our friends say. We're always following our own wrong intuitions. We're always following. The truth is, as much as any of us wants to deny this, we're all followers. Every single last one of us follows. That being the case, let us make sure we follow someone who truly deserves to be followed. And conversely, if we are going to set ourselves up as a leader, let's make sure that we are the sort of individual who can lead in such a way that we see ourselves, again, not as the master, but as the servant. Because to be a true leader is the greatest service to humanity. So, with that, thank you very much.